Welcome to the Christian Romance Podcast, where we go behind the books with inspiring Christian romance authors, exploring faith, love, and the journey that brings the story to life. I'm your host, Kelly Jo Wilson, and today we're chatting with Christine Hill Suntz. Christine is an award-winning historical romance author who knew she wanted to write the moment she finished reading Anne of Green Gables. She's the recipient of the 2022 ACFW Genesis Award for Historical Romance and the 2021 West Coast Christian Writers Golden Goldie Best in Conference Award. Christine lives in Ontario, Canada, on a hobby farm with her family and a lively herd of goats. When she's not writing, she's teaching high school French and enjoys testing out 19th century recipes on her mostly willing family. Be sure to stay tuned to the end of the episode so you can hear about our newest book giveaway for this month. Now, here's my conversation with Christine. Hi, Christine. I am so happy to have you on the Christian Romance Podcast. Thank you so much for being here today.
Hi, Kelly. I am delighted. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, I can't wait to hear so much about you. You are such a neat lady. You do so many amazing things, and I have to hear about them. So please, why don't you tell the listeners about you, just about how you became an author and what got you into this, writing these wonderful inspirational stories, and then also what kind of books you write.
Okay, thank you. Um, yeah, I'm Christine. I'm a mom of three. I'm also a high school teacher, and I've always wanted to be a writer. And now at 47, I'll just give my age right out there, I'm publishing my first book. So this is very exciting. It's really a lifelong dream, but a dream I put, on hold because I was doing lots of other things. And I also thought it wasn't realistic for me to think about being a writer, right? It was kind of a pipe dream maybe. But it was always something I really wanted to do. I felt called to do. And I'm just so happy that I've finally gotten the chance to bring a book into the world and talk to people about it and that people actually ask me about it. It's amazing.
Oh, yeah, it's super amazing. Congratulations to you. It is super, super fun. And yes, it is so tough because you have this dream and it's in your heart and you want to do this, especially like being a teacher and just having all this knowledge and wanting to do this and writing and stuff. And then you are able to do it. And the book is just, it looks absolutely beautiful. I am so excited to hear about this story. So, yes, it is super exciting. And in high school, so you teach high school, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. And you teach high school French. What is that like?
I love it, of course. It's my job, it's my career, my calling as well. Um, So I live in Canada, so French is our second, like our official, second official language, one of our official languages. So everyone has to take French right up until ninth grade, from fourth grade to ninth grade. So this means there's lots of French teachers in Canada, but I teach high school French, so I get to teach it beyond ninth grade as well. And I just love I feel like language is just opens the world. It's such an important realization to have, to know that, oh, there's a whole bunch of people in the world who speak a different language than I do and have a different culture and are amazing, interesting people. And it just broadens the mind, right? When you start looking outside of your own neighborhood and your own, you know, world, the world that's around you. So that's what I love about teaching language. I always include travel. My students are probably sick of it. I'm always talking about traveling and where people speak French. And this year I also speak German, and I got the chance to teach German this year, which is very exciting. We don't often have enough students to offer that. So that was another super fun experience I had. I just love sharing the world with my students, and of course, building relationship. That's really what teaching is about. So,
Oh my
yeah.
gosh, I love it so much. I love that you just have this passion for it, and especially for like broadening your students because yeah, there is such a big world out there that we forget outside of our like little bubbles. And French is such a beautiful language. German is really interesting too, and it's so funny that you say German. My mom was actually born in Germany, and she
Oh,
spoke
cool.
German. She came to America when she was 5 years old, and I have her German passport. She's like, Kelly, she gave it to me because it was so interesting, and I could see like the stamp and everything. And she actually can still understand a little bit of German, but she can't really speak too much anymore because it was like a way long time ago. But how did you learn these
Yeah.
languages?
It was just something I was always interested in growing up. So I didn't grow up in a home. We spoke only English in my home, but my dad was a world traveler. He traveled all over the world before he, met my mom and got married. And he taught in, I don't know, dozens of different countries, I would say, back in the day when Canada was part of a Commonwealth. So he had a Commonwealth
Mm.
passport, so he could go anywhere that was a Commonwealth country and work. And I think growing up with his stories and his like pictures really influenced me and made me just want to travel and explore. And I did that quite a bit when I was younger. I lived in Germany and I lived in France and I studied there, and it was just always an interest of mine, which is kind of funny because these days I don't travel too far except for my kids' sporting events. So I'm happy I had the chance when I was younger to do that. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And it's so interesting, especially whenever you're younger and you're like still kind of being like a sponge and drawing things in. I actually had the opportunity. I haven't gone overseas at all except one time, and it was to Germany whenever I was 19. And it was such a different experience. And it gives you like a new appreciation for your own country in some ways, like for
Hmm.
America, but then also, or Canada, and also, but it gives you such a neat perspective. Like I thought it was so interesting. And you tell me what you think. In Germany, I was only 19 whenever I went, but whenever I went with my friend and his dad's girlfriend, and I couldn't believe like I loved how they really didn't put so much pressure on working. Like it really was just work to live, not live to work.
Hmm.
And I just loved that. Like they would close down during the day. Now the pubs were open, the pubs were
Yeah.
open all day. But yeah, everything just closed down and it was like like almost every place that we went to, even like pharmacies and all that was like family owned. It was like very simple life. Did you get that feel like living over there?
I definitely did. Now, I lived there like over 20 years ago, and I think it's changed more recently. Like the model
Mm.
has turned a little bit more like the North American model, like things are open every day. But I remember the panic of getting your groceries Saturday morning because at noon the shop was going to close and it wasn't going to open again till Monday. So get what you needed because and everybody would be in the store, the grocery store on Saturday morning. And I think that's changed a lot. The last time I was in Germany, that wasn't um as common. I think it still exists, but wasn't quite as prevalent. So that's kind of sad because I really appreciated that the value of placed on the worker's life. And the workers needs to have a day off, right? And to be home and have family time. So yeah, that was beautiful. And yeah, I miss that for sure.
Oh yeah. What part of Germany did you live?
I lived in Freiburg, so it's in the south west of Germany, and a beautiful, sunny area of Germany. Yeah, great city. Highly recommend.
Yeah, we went to oh my gosh, I'm probably gonna butcher the name of the little town. It was like outside of Frankfurt, which is about
Mhm.
an hour outside of Frankfurt. I think it
Yep.
was called Mossbach. It was like
Oh
a
yeah, yeah.
small town. We went to I remember visiting the couple castles, and one castle was like Schloss Heidelberg,
Oh
and
yeah,
I'm
I've been
probably
there. Yeah.
butchering that too. I need
No,
you to help
that's
me speak
perfect.
German.
That's perfect. Yeah.
But it was so neat. But I get so afraid. Okay, I read contemporary usually. I have been dabbling into historical, and of course, I have all these wonderful authors I talk to. So I have so many books on
It's
my TBR. But
inevitable.
I
You're
will
coming over to the historical side. Yeah.
absolutely, it's inevitable. It's inevitable. But I'm such a baby when it comes to like kind of scary stuff or like spooky stuff. So when we were like at that castle, I was like, "Oh my gosh, is this haunted?" Because especially I was like
Yeah.
young, but I still feel like that. So, but it was really cool. Did you go like see anything like that whenever you were over there?
Yeah, for sure. And the last time I went, we went 2 years ago in the summer with my husband and my children. And my husband has family there. We were able to visit them, which was amazing. But we went to this place called Burg Eltz, and it's a castle, but it's a medieval castle that's still owned by the same family. So most castles you go to, they were destroyed and rebuilt, and they're just sort of, kind of put on display for people. But this was like original. So all the furniture, all the paintings, everything was original, and the family still lives there. So that was amazing to me. I highly recommend it. It was the coolest castle I've ever been to because it was still a castle owned by the original family from like 800 years ago or whatever. So very cool. That's my top castle in Germany. Do not spend too much time at Neuschwanstein, which is the one that the Disney castle is based on. So it's cool, but there's a lot of tourists there. So
Oh, I didn't even know that. I didn't even know it was
yeah.
based on like a German castle. Oh, that is neat.
Yeah, it's based on a castle in Bavaria, in southern Bavaria. So
Wow, that's really cool. See, I love getting
yeah.
those little tidbits, especially because you lived over there. You know all the, the
Well,
cool
I
stuff.
know
And
some stuff. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Especially if it's owned by the same family. That's amazing. Cause I think I can't remember the Heidelberg Castle. I know one of the places we stayed was actually part castle. It was like a hotel, but not like a hotel. It was like small. And
Hmm.
there was like a tour you could, like a walking tour, like you could take on your own, like through like the castle parts and stuff. And it was really neat. But yeah, that's pretty cool that it was owned by the same family and they live there. That's amazing. I was going to ask you, so just going back to the story. Well, real quick, before we get into the story,
Sure, sure. Yeah.
I have to hear about your hobby farm and your little goats. You have to talk about these.
Okay. Well, they are really cute. And, I post a lot about them on Instagram. So people are probably like, is she a goat farmer or a writer? Um, yeah, we have a herd of we moved from Toronto. We moved here about 12 years ago to the country, so in the Niagara region, and we have about
Mm.
30 acres. And originally, we were really going to become like self-sufficient. We had all kinds of ideas for how we were going to grow all of our own food. And slowly we've let go of some of those dreams because it's really hard when you have kids and two full-time jobs. Um, you can't do it all, right? So we've kind of pared it back now till we just have goats, and they're mostly just for fun. We do sell them because, of course, if you have baby goats, eventually you'll have too many goats. So we sell our goats, and we have chickens, just laying hens, and so we have our own eggs and we sell eggs. But not too much real farming is happening at our place at all, just for fun. And we have a lot of fun with the goats because they have the best personalities of any farm animals that I've raised myself. So they are curious, they're friendly, they're fun, they like to play. And most farm animals that I've had, unless I've had them since they were born and I've been able to like spend a lot of time with them, are kind of skittish and shy. Not sure about
Mm.
people. They want to be with their own kind. But goats, I mean, they just come right up to you, start eating your shirt, talk to you. Hey, what's up? Ask for food. And our kids also, they're nice size, right? So our kids play with them a lot and spend a lot of time with them. And I don't have to worry too much about anybody getting hurt, which is a big benefit over cows because cows are huge. Um, but yeah, we just have a lot of fun with them. And I suppose someday when our kids get older, I mean, our kids are all in high school or approaching high school now. So, I'm sure it won't last forever. But for now, we love our goats. So, yeah.
Aw, that's so sweet. How many goats do you have?
Right now, I don't know, 20? My daughter
Oh
has a
my
better
gosh.
count of them. So right now, like they all kid sort of in the late winter. So right now we have lots of like teenager goats, and lots of them will be sold soon. And so we can only keep usually one boy or else they fight. So they have to find homes, and or sometimes they're sold for food too. Sorry if any of your guests are sad about that, but if you are a
You
vegetarian,
know,
I apologize, but we do sell them for food. They are meat goats, so that's what they're bred, originally were bred for. So,
that it's so funny that you say that because I was at first talking to at first goats are super fun. Yes, you're absolutely right. I love that you guys are having these goats and you're playing with them. And that's neat to hear that they're like really fun and curious and because that, if you're considering having a farm or like, even a hobby farm,
Mhm.
it's difficult, right? It's a lot of work. And then the animals have their own personalities anyway. So they're going to be tough. Like I love cows. I would love to have a cat, like complete naive me would love to have a cow, but you're right. They're big and there's things that you have to do to like
Right.
take care of
They
them
eat a
and
lot.
to,
Yeah.
yeah, they eat a lot. You have to know what to do. Um, do you guys milk the goats too, or
Yeah,
they're just
I
kind of hang
have.
out and play?
Yeah, I had a really good milk goat. She passed away maybe last year, so I had her for a long time, and she was
Hmm.
more of an alpine breed that was for milking, and she was also super friendly, so I was able to milk her. I milked her a fair bit, um, especially before I went back to work full time, because that's a full-time job, really, just milking your goat twice a day and trying to do something with that milk. But yeah, I had a lot of fun. I would make goat's cheese, and I tried to get my kids to drink goat's milk, but anyway, that's another story. But I had fun with that. Yeah.
I heard, or I've read that goat's milk is very healthy for you. It's like very, very
Yes.
good. It's
Yeah, it
probably the
is.
best. I'm not a real big fan of goat cheese, but I'm not sure if that's because of like just the
Mhm.
commercial goat cheese. It's probably so different, just like how it's very different. Homegrown or homemade, anything is always like 10
It is,
times
but
better.
it does have a strong taste. So, like, there's a goat flavor to it, right, sometimes, and goat's milk too, right? So you have to kinda get used to it. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. But it's good. I think, isn't it? Isn't goat's milk used in some skincare stuff too?
Yeah. In fact, I tried to make soap with it a few times. Not super successful, but, I'll work on it. Maybe this summer I'll get back into that, but yeah.
I love that you're trying everything. I just
Yeah.
love it. I absolutely love it. And then you have your
Mhm.
your kids and your fam and you guys are hanging with the goats. I love that. Absolutely. And it definitely sounds super fun, especially with 20 goats. They probably come running up so happy and just,
They do. I mean, I don't wanna misrepresent, they can be very annoying as well because they don't give up. If they want something, they could be right in your face. So often we'll leave like, they'll hear the house door, the back door shut, and they're quite a distance away, and we'll hear them start calling, like, "Meh," they're like, because they think, "Oh, wait, are you coming to feed us?" So, you know, there's pros and cons, but
like little kids, like literally.
totally, yeah.
Oh, I love it. That is super fun. I absolutely love it. Well, let's talk about this wonderful book, The Lawyer and the Laundress, okay, that you wrote, this wonderful first book that you're launching. I am so excited for you. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about the setting first.
Mhm.
So it's set in Canada in the 1800s. Do you want to kind of paint that picture a little bit for our listeners? Like what maybe some of the challenges are of that kind of time period and that setting?
Sure. So yeah, it's set in Toronto, early Toronto. Toronto's a very small city at this point, and a city that is surrounded by um, lots of wilderness and some new settlements. I mean, settlers are coming to Canada, and it's slowly becoming, um, slowly more and more Europeans are here, but not nearly what you would think of as like sort of a New York or even Pittsburgh probably at that time, right? It's still fairly primitive, so there's not a lot of roads. Things are pretty muddy, but the colony is growing. And in 1837, a lot of tensions that had been building in British North America, so Canada at that time, it was called Upper Canada. A lot of tensions were really coming to a head. And so a lot of people from Britain were coming over as they were coming to the States as well, fleeing poverty and difficult economic conditions, hoping for a better life. But there were also sort of a class of British people who were coming that were hoping they could somehow recreate in Upper Canada what they had in Britain. So thinking like, oh, if I get some land there, I could become a landowner, and I could sort of live very easily and very well, and I'll have people working for me. And of course, the working class who were coming to Canada did not have that vision. They did not want to work for someone else. They wanted to work for themselves. So that's just one little hint of sort of like the troubles that were brewing. We did not have elected we had elected representation, but they had no real power. So the power was a governor who came from Britain, and he sort of had an elite circle around him that were making decisions. And they were called the Family Compact, and they were pretty corrupt. So there was a lot of that tension as well. And so that's kind of the political backdrop to Toronto at that time. And there was a rebellion. It's called the Upper Canada Rebellion in 1837. And I learned about this in school, I think probably when I was in 7th grade, and I've been fascinated by it ever since. It was a total failure, so it seemed, right? The rebellion didn't really go anywhere. The rebels weren't really equipped. They weren't military guys. They were sort of political leaders and dreamers and people thinking about equality and all kinds of great things, but not being able to actually make it happen on the ground. And so the rebellion was squashed and the rebels fled. But in retrospect, looking back, it was considered sort of the beginning of responsible government in Canada. So it really did bring about some changes. So that's political stuff. But trust me, this book is a romance. Don't worry, everyone. There's not tons of politics in it. That's just the background to the love story between Sarah and James. So the laundress, that's Sarah, and the lawyer, that's James.
Well, no, but that's good to know. I mean, because that does set the stage really for what kind of things, because all that political drama, especially like rebellions and stuff, it trickles down to the people. I mean, it just trickles down to what they're trying to do and like their motivations and how they're going to kind of get through these difficult times, especially because everybody wants to make a better life. And that's kind of the general goal for everyone, right? Whether they're from like an upper class or a lower class, so that certainly plays in. And it causes tension too, because that's why I was curious about the setting too, which Toronto actually isn't that far from me. Toronto's only like,
no, not at all. Pittsburgh is only, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 hours away.
Yeah, it's 5 or 6
hours. I've driven through there lots of times.
Yep. I love it. I love it because I'm such a hockey fan, I will tell you. So Canada, I'm a fan of Canada because we have Sidney Crosby, Mary Lemieux.
Right,
those are, the faves. Always have the love for Canada and Toronto especially. Even whenever like we were playing, because Toronto's never been like a rival for the Penguins at all. Usually our rival is the Flyers or the Islanders.
Of course. Yeah, of course.
But yeah, no, I love that. I love that setting. And it's good to know because I am not great with historical things. And that's what I love that you're sharing that. And because I can just kind of picture, it actually kind of gives me a little bit of a vibe because of the new settlement and things like that and how people are coming over of like Far and Away. Even though, did you ever see that movie?
Yeah. Yep.
That's
of course.
Yeah, it kind of gives me that vibe. I don't want to, is it kind of like that? Like with that same.
Well, there is, it's kind of interesting you mentioned that because there is our heroine, Sarah, is Sarah O'Connor, and she comes from a place in Toronto that was actually called Irish Town at that time, where a lot of poor Irish immigrants lived. There's a lot of prejudice against the Irish, as there was in lots of cities in North America at that time, right? But she's not actually what she seems. There's a little bit of secret identity here. She is not just an Irish woman who is a laundress, although that is a super hard job, and I have full respect for anyone who did that at the time, because she sort of befriends a young girl who is taking lessons at the house where Sarah works as the laundress. And the young girl is sort of ostracized by the governess and by the other girls in the house. And Sarah becomes friends with her and ends up teaching her a lot of what she knows. So teaches her French, teaches her literature, teaches her poems that she loves. And of course, probably an Irish laundress at that time wouldn't have access to that kind of an education. So there are a lot of questions about who this woman really is. And when James finds out that his daughter, James is a widower, he's very devoted to his daughter and wants her to get the best education she can. And he finds out she's actually hanging out with the laundress instead of the governess. And he is, not happy about this and forbids their relationship. So, of course, that's not going to last. But anyway, that's how it starts.
Yes, which I love because that's a ton of tension. But I love Sarah already. She has such a unique kind of, like you said, like there's no way, in her position that she would know this, but I love how educated and how well-rounded she is. And she's like sharing this with his daughter Evie, and then he is like freaking out. So tell us a little bit about James. What's going on with him? So you said he's a widower and he has his
Mhm.
daughter. And what is, obviously no spoilers, but what's going on with James?
Well, he's the lawyer, no shocker, right? And he is, though, I really created James to be a person that, like, kind of like a person I wish we had more of in the world. So he's a bit of an idealistic, I guess, but he's a person who can see both sides. So he's from the upper classes, but he really understands what the lower classes are going through. And his whole mission is compromise, understanding, and peaceful resolutions. So, like, he's part of this sort of ruling class that is trying to make sure there's no rebellion and no danger. Um, and, no uprising and everything should stay the way it is. But he's like, no, everything should not stay the way it is. Things aren't right. But I think we can bring about change in peaceful ways, and we can listen to each other, and we can sit down and we can find compromises. And, when things are heated, nobody really wants to listen to that person, right? But that's how he sees his mission, and how he sees his faith, right? As that's what he's there to bring about, is so. But he's also a wounded man. I mean, he obviously was married, and his wife died in childbirth. He's always felt very responsible for his bringing up this daughter and trying to bring her up in a way that he thinks his wife would approve of. So when she befriends Sarah, he's horrified because he thinks he's somehow broken the trust that his wife had, in him to give his daughter the best start. But he has a lot to learn too. So
As we all do, right? There's a little
yeah.
bit of James in all of us. Broken, but idealistic. And we just, want to save the world, which I love that because, the lawyer, sometimes people are like, oh, the lawyer's going to be sneaky or greedy or something like that. But meanwhile, he's idealistic and he wants to compromise and be diplomatic about things and try to actually make change. And he is, I would imagine a lawyer in that time frame would be in a position of influence,
For sure, he has access to.
which is wonderful. I think that that's so neat. And they obviously couldn't be more opposite, right? So let's talk about Sarah. So you talked about a little bit about Sarah, how she was Irish, which is funny. Isn't it funny? It's because you described it so well. I'm telling you, with the setting, because that's exactly what I was picturing, like far and away, people wanting to come over and be their own boss, get some land, actually just make a different life. So if she has secret identity, it almost seems like maybe she's hiding a little bit within this position. That's what it kind
She
of sounds like.
is. You're
I know.
right.
I didn't
Yeah.
want you to give too much away. She's
I
hiding a
don't wanna
little
give
bit.
too much away either, but you'll know from the beginning that she's got secrets, for sure.
Okay.
That's not a yeah, you'll figure that out right away, readers. But, like, Sarah is also a wounded woman.
Hmm.
I mean, she has a past that has really scarred her, and her thought right now is, "Keep my head down, get my work done. I'm not gonna I'm not going to get attached to the people around me." She has one person she cares about, and it's Granny. And it's a woman who came along
Hmm.
and helped her when she had nothing. And now this woman, Granny, is sick and needs her. And so her only mission in life is just to provide comfort for Granny, hopefully help Granny get better. And that's why she's sort of taken this position as a laundress. And I kind of identified with her because sometimes I can be like that. I'm little bit quiet. I'm introverted. Okay, I'm talking a lot right now, but trust me, I am.
I'm
And
forcing
I
you
can
to.
sometimes I just want to, yeah, I just want to put my head down and get my work done. And I don't want to speak up. I don't want to cause conflict, but sometimes you have to, right? If you see injustice around you, you have to speak up. And that's something that Sarah comes to see. She sees a little bit about what's happening to Evie in this school situation, and she knows it's not right, and she doesn't want to say anything to Evie's dad. She does not want to rock the boat or risk losing her job, but she knows what's right, and she's willing to stand up and risk everything for what's right.
I love her. I love that. I feel like that is such a wonderful quality. I always really are drawn to characters personally that have that nobility about them. It's so funny
Hmm.
because as a writer, James L. Rubart, he does this like teaching with Thomas on novel marketing, on the book launch blueprint, actually. And he always says in this like branding teaching, he says, name your top 3 favorite movies. And then he can tell you the theme of your life. And which is a fun thing to think about, right? Think about what your top 3 movies might
Hmm.
be, because it would definitely be hard. It was definitely hard for me. But
Yes.
that's like one of the themes though that I love, is like that nobility that Sarah has, that
Hmm.
standing up for what's right, doing, because it's hard. It's really hard. My husband and I just had a conversation with our son about that just literally earlier today, because he has that. He has a really strong sense of justice. And when he sees like kids, you know, being rude or like being, making fun of people or even him or anyone else, he has such a need to like speak up. And I'm like, buddy, it's a hard place. It's a hard place to
Hmm.
be that person, because you get a lot of flack for that, because nobody likes the person who speaks up. Because you're rocking the boat a little bit, and people
Yep.
love when it's status quo, right? And that's kind of what it sounds like with James too, is that he wants it change. He's like, no, this has to change. We can't have this happening because it isn't right, like you were saying.
Hmm.
um so I would imagine that, hopefully they move from enemies to
Right.
friends to lovers, and they join forces a little bit, or at least support each other, because it's hard to be the one that stands up, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And as a teacher, I always appreciate and try to encourage those students. Sounds like your son is one of them who are willing, because there's no place where it's harder to stand up for what's right than a high school. So
Mm,
to stand out from the crowd and be different and be willing to stand up for what you believe in. So yeah, kudos to him.
yes, yes. He never wants to get anybody in trouble, though. He's actually just going into
Right.
6th grade, and he never
Yeah.
wants to get anybody in trouble. He's like, "I don't wanna get anybody in trouble, but mama," and he'll, like, tell me
Yeah.
what happened, and I'm like, "Buddy, I understand." Or he'll, like, be like, "Guys, we gotta be quiet because we're gonna get in trouble. We're gonna get assigned seats." And, like, he'll say things like that, and I'm like, "Buddy, that's great." But then the
Yes.
teachers will get mad at him for talking, just
Yeah.
telling his friends to be quiet. And I'm like, that happens. It's just funny, like to try to explain that, like where it's like, because you don't want to say don't do that, because it's like you
Right.
said, it's hard. It's harder to be that person than the latter. But then there's like a fine line, because it just gets so frustrated. It's tough, right? We live in a world full of brokenness. We live in a world full
Hmm.
of hard things, right? God tells us that it's, Adam, even from the start, is gonna have a hard time. It's hard work. You're gonna have to like weed through the tears and all of that, in your work. So, and everything. So it's crazy whenever you're like teaching your kids, which as I'm sure, as a teacher, I'm sure that you're find that to be something like every day that you're having to kind of combat that, right?
Right. And just be vigilant and be have your ears open to what's actually going on in the corners of your classroom, but also teach your lessons, but also, but yeah, it's certainly something I try to be really aware of. But
Yeah,
yeah.
it's definitely tough. Well, this sounds absolutely wonderful. So it kind of sounds like, so real quick, just to talk about some of the tropes. It
Hmm.
sounds like enemies to lovers, would you say?
Definitely. They really don't like I mean, they make a lot of assumptions about each other at the
Mm,
beginning, right? I mean, for Sarah, he is a lawyer. He is part of the establishment that she has really come to dislike, hate maybe. Um, and he, just writes her off immediately based on what he assumes about her social class and her job and all kinds of things that have nothing to do with seeing the woman that she really is. So they have a lot of prejudice to overcome against each other, I would
mm,
say. So definitely. There's a dash of, though, like, things happen in the story. It's not a total secret, but there are things that happen that force them together. This isn't really a spoiler, though it doesn't happen at the beginning. But Evie gets really sick, and it turns out Sarah is the one who can nurse her back to health. But then Sarah has been in James's house, and rumors start to fly, and they end up thinking that maybe a marriage of convenience isn't such a bad idea. So that's another kind of strong trope that it takes a while to get there from enemies to marriage of convenience. But yeah, that comes out as well.
Oh, that's super fun. Super, super fun. Also, what were we saying before? Oh, you even said a secret identity kind of thing too, which is
For
super neat
sure.
as well. Yes,
Yeah.
that's really cool to find out, especially whenever it's like sprinkled throughout, like you see her like knowing a little bit more and teaching these things that you're like, wait a minute, well, how does she know this stuff? And then it like comes out later. And then of course he's a widower and single dad, so that would
hmm
be kind of a thing too. And then found family or the class difference too.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of upstairs downstairs in this one. So yeah, if you like that trope, then I think this book might be for you.
Very cool. Very cool. Yes, I definitely know people, especially marriage of convenience. Love the marriage of
hmm
convenience. And I personally really like enemies to lovers too. I love the tension and
Yeah,
the
me
banter.
too.
And then you're like rooting for them the whole time. And it's like, no, don't think that about her. Like she's not that way, or like about him, just give it a
I
chance.
think, yeah, I've been pro enemies to lovers. I think was I watched Anne of Green Gables when it was a mini series on TV. So I was probably like 10 or 11 years old. And like Anne and Gilbert, it's like it was programmed into me at a very young age that it's enemies to lovers. That's not how it actually works in real life, but I don't care. It's fine. It's how it works in romance, and that's what I like. So,
Exactly. That's the fun. Where's the fun in that?
yeah.
Absolutely. Um, well, I love this so much. Honestly, thank you so much for Christine for sharing this story. I'm sure it's absolutely amazing. Was there any particular Bible verse that really kind of encouraged you, just even throughout your writing journey? Through those times, through the years, working as a teacher and really write your first book, or even verse that really carried you through this story or that ties to the story.
There is kind of a verse that I really held on to as I was writing this story. And actually, Kelly, really touched on it earlier when you mentioned how life is hard, right?
Mm,
And we understand that. So it was Ecclesiastes 3, which I think many of your listeners will be very familiar with. This is like for everything there is a season. And there
mm.
were two lines from this chapter that really spoke to me, that there's a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance. And those were lessons that Sarah and James had to learn through this story because they both came from such a place of tragedy. They were broken and they thought like it's over for me. I'm going to help other people and work for other people, but my own life is pretty much, it's broken beyond repair, and I'm not going to be able to find happiness again. And they did, because it's a romance. So don't worry, everyone. They do find happiness, but it's not an easy road, right? And I think it's important for us to always keep that in mind, that we're not promised an easy road, that really hard things happen. And there's no real easy answer to a lot of either. There's no simple solution to a lot of the things that people face. It's a rough road, and we have to be there for each other and listen and support. So,
Oh yeah, for sure. Thank you so much for that. What a wonderful verse. And it's so encouraging. And it's so true too, because it also in those times where it's really hard, it's so easy to feel like God isn't there and God isn't hearing us and hearing our prayers. And because, it's especially as believers, as Christians, we are going to go through hardship no matter what, because it prunes us and it lets patience do its perfect work. But in with the verse that you shared, though, it reminds us that his promise is that there is always a season for certain things, right? There's a season of mourning, a season of dancing, a season of hope,
mhm.
and that he's always, always with us, and that his timing is always right and it's always perfect, even if it seems like it's taken him a while to get
Well, yeah, and
there.
like if we're in the place of mourning, that's okay. We can
Yeah.
be there. We don't have to feel like, well, I'm a Christian, so I'm supposed to be always happy, and I'm not allowed to have these feel despair, or to feel sadness, or to question. So I know that's important to me. So that's, just how I, a verse that really spoke to me as I was writing. Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. And I'm so glad that that was so encouraging to you and that you kept that dream alive and you pushed forward. And it's not easy to do writing, especially taking care of a family and also taking care of a second family and your kids at the school. And that's tough. And I'm so happy that you brought this story to us and that God has guided you through that whole process. It's very encouraging too with those that verse. But we are almost at time. So let's I just wanted to give you a chance to let our listeners know where they can connect with you and how they can get on your newsletter and also get this wonderful book, The Lawyer and the Laundress.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, you can find me at Christine Hill Suntz. That's suntz.com. That's where post most of my most recent updates, and I encourage you to sign up for my newsletter. It's only once a month, and I try to send out some like cute animal pictures and historical recipes, and things I'm puttering around on at the hobby farm, and writing updates and things like that. So that's a great way to keep in touch with me and to kind of know what's going on in my world. And I'm also very active on Instagram. That's also Christine Hill Suntz. So that's another place to connect.
Awesome. What is one of your favorite recipes? You have to share.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
forcing
Christmas
you.
pudding. Yeah, Christmas pudding, 100%. I'm a big fan. So, yeah, and so this is like beef fat or suet, mixed together with raisins and currants and candied orange peel and boiled in cheesecloth. Sounds totally gross, but maybe you've had it. Lots of families in North America eat it still, right? Especially families with British heritage. But I made it. My mom used to make it for my dad, and I always turned up my nose at it. But then I made it, and I made a historical recipe. Then I made my mom's and kind of mixed them together. And it is one of my favorite things to have at Christmas time now. So highly recommend, everyone.
Oh my gosh, that sounds delish. I've never had that before. I don't think I've ever heard of that. So I'm so happy that you shared that. But the currants and the orange probably are just so delightful together.
Yeah, it's just a very rich. It sounds gross that it's with beef fat, but trust me, it's a good thing. It adds so
Yeah.
much like, richness to it. So, yeah.
Oh, absolutely. You know what's funny is I'm
Mhm.
like, beef fat to me at first, I was like, when you hear it, you're like, beef fat, that's so weird. But now, like, like beef tallow, just seeing all the
Mhm.
benefits of like how it's so good, even for your skin and for all those kind of things, like from for real beef fat. I'm like, awesome. Let's see
Right?
what
Yeah,
else the
it's
beef
great.
fat
Yeah.
can do. Oh, I love it. For a fellow homesteader, meanwhile, I say fellow homesteader. We haven't even finished
Oh,
building our garden boxes yet, okay, Christine? But we are
oh, you're
driven.
on the way. You're on the way. Once you get in,
Yes.
you can't get out again. So, yeah.
Yes. Hopefully by the time this episode releases, we have a few tomatoes growing so we can make sauce.
Awesome. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. But thank you so much. Thank you, Christine, for just sharing about your journey and this wonderful story. I am so excited to get it and for our listeners to read it. And just thank you so much for sharing your heart as well and for being here on the show today.
Oh, Kelly, it is such a pleasure to talk to you. I really appreciate this opportunity. Thank you.
If you enjoyed today's episode, please share it with one book lover like yourself. We love to bless as many people as we can with fun behind the scenes interviews and, of course, great books. This month, we're having a classic Christian romance book giveaway. One blessed winner will receive a bundle of 5 timeless Christian romances, including favorites like Love Comes Softly and Redeeming Love. These are the stories that shaped Christian romance as we know it, filled with faith, redemption, and lasting love. The giveaway ends September 30th, so don't wait. Whether you're listening right when the episode drops or tuning in later, you can always find the latest giveaway at ChristianRomancePodcast.com. Thanks so much for listening, and until next time, keep your faith, share the love, and happy reading.